Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Crypt Choir. It's been a while since the last episode. I've been super busy with going to tournaments and other projects that I do on the side, as well as work. But hopefully, I'll be able to get back into a weekly schedule with these videos and kind of sharing my experiences with the tournaments that I go to, usually locally, and hopefully some more big ones in the future, like the one I'm going to go over today. So today we're going to go over my COWTOWN Throwdown experience. Was pretty excited going into this. First time traveling pretty far actually to a tournament. It was a lot of money to leave California and go to another flight to another state so far away. So I was really trying to find the funds to be able to go to the tournament over at CCS, this one, and then the Snowy Summit one. But 3 plane tickets back to back with hotel stays, it just wasn't. I'm not a big YouTuber, so it's definitely not financially viable for me to do that, unfortunately. Also, because there's just not any big tournaments out here in the West, out in California. So, for me wanting to attend a gold event, I'm gonna have to leave the state. Usually have to travel to the Midwest where most of these gold events are held. Every once in a while we will get something gold or platinum out here with this fishbowl, or if it's a Silicon Dynasty. But it's usually like nothing even hits. I don't even think anything hits silver here. It's just too spread out, too many people, not enough people to make these big events. However, I'm not sure. Maybe in the LA area, there's a lot of weeklies that maybe can hit silver events, just because it's just more dense city over there than it is out here in the valley where I'm at, as well as NorCal, where I do a lot of traveling to for tournaments as well. So it's kind of rough, but I was able to get the funds to be able to travel out here and hopefully do well. So it was day 1 was 5 rounds, and then day 2 was 2 rounds, cut to top 16 and cut to the finals. So go into it pretty prepped as I could be. I showed up like a whole day before, got some good dinner, slept a good amount. I was feeling pretty good, the best I could feel going into a tournament. And we're gonna go through the rounds just right into it. So round 1, it was me on my classic cringe farm, Rogsai, Rocco, and Kinnan. Game starts out okay. A few things are happening, interaction here and there. We're trying to stop Rogsai, obviously, because they're showing early wins. We get to a point where no one is doing anything because me and Kinnan just have interaction, but we got not much going on. Rocco has been sitting there slowly building up, resources, not doing much, just kind of biding his time correctly, since most of the combos that they do kind of just flies under the radar, since there's not a lot of creature counters or interaction. Rogsai is close to dying because we're like chipping away at his life with Kinnan, Timna, and some other random creatures that Rocco has to slowly get him down, so he's not in a good ad nauseam range. We tell him he gets to a point now where we're getting fairly close to time. There's like maybe 20 minutes left, and he's talking about like trying to find lines and go for it. And we tell him, hey man, don't go for it, just pass. We're going to a big turn into Rocco. We just spent like a lot of interaction 2 turns in a row, and they have a critical mass of like resources that we need to just chill out and at least wait for his turn to pass. And we tell him too, me and Kinnan are like, hey, we have the interaction, don't go for it. We have the interaction as well, so we need to just chill out. And he just says he doesn't care, he needs to go for it, which we're just like, oh come on man. He tries to go for it, we stop him, obviously use up the rest of our small amount of interaction that we had, and then he is for some reason shocked that he couldn't get there when we just told him that's all we had in our hand. And Rocco goes to his turn and wins the game because we just spent everything. So we were like, come on dude, like what? So that was really weird. Just him still going for it, knowing that there was interaction and that we were obviously going to stop him. And then I think Kinnan had a wrist sig, so we were hoping he would draw into something also to stop the Rocco, but he didn't draw. I believe we were just waiting for him to draw a pact or a force, and he didn't draw any of them. We just drew all the non-creature counter spells. So that's how round 1 ended. Pretty not a good start. I'm getting a little worried. Definitely feels bad just to get a game thrown like that. But whatever, happens. So we're gonna go into round two. Again, in first seat, me, I'm getting pretty lucky. The Revi, Obnixilis, and Rakdos the Muscle. Pretty neat, pretty weird seeing two turbo Rakdos decks with a Derevi, so I'm a little worried. In my hand, I keep a pretty painful mana base, but I have a Necropotence, and I just need to find one more black source, and it should be fine. And with a turbo spot like this, I am afraid, so I'm hoping I can get there. And then obviously the Revi, I got to worry about them, and hopefully I'm hoping that the other two kind of go for it first, and then the Revi stops them. And then I think all I had in my hand was Pact of Negation, which I did not want to use, but that's all I had. And I think I'm looking down to 5, so it was like what was it? I think it was like Mana Confluence. Man, what was it? It was 2 Painlands, I believe, and then like, yeah, it was like 2 Painlands, Necropotence, Pact, and some other stuff that didn't matter. So anyways, we continue on with the game. Rakdos and Ob start out with some really good fast mana. Obviously, Derevi just, land, dork, whatever. And then we get to turn 2. Derevi builds up a little bit more board. First, Obnixilis throws down a Necropotence on their turn 2. I'm like, okay, not good. And they're topped out. And they do, I believe, go down to 10, look at some cards, sculpt their hand, pass the turn. Goes into Rakdos, again, puts a bunch of Valley pieces, then casts Necropotence. And he also does like 10 or something, I believe, a little bit more. Sculpts the hand, passes the turn. Go to my turn, and I find the third land that produces black. And I'm just looking at the board, thinking, okay, yeah, I go out and I'm just jam out the Necropotence. And at this point, I'm thinking, I don't think Derevi has anything, because if he did, he probably would have stopped the first Necropotence, or maybe some of the other stuff that were like combo pieces that were setting up by Rakdos. So I'm thinking I might be in the clear here. Now, I was thinking initially I'm going to just do a conservative like 10 health, sculpt a good hand, and try to control the board to make it back to my turn, so I have even more resources to go for a deep necro. But I didn't have any blockers, and they had a bunch of like random value creatures, the 2 Rakdos players, that they could just attack me in and do, I think it was like maybe like 10 damage they had. Just like combo pieces that they creature combo pieces that they could have swung at me, including with Derevi if they had like 2 dorks. So I think it was like total across the 3 players like 10 damage. So I'm thinking, okay, they're probably gonna attack me because it's just blue farm, and all people always just attack blue farm. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to get back to my turn. So I think I just have to send it there, and I have exactly 2 mana to be able to cast the Born if I flip into it. So I say, well, let's do it. So I just send it, and I do 37, yeah, like 37 health, I believe. Go in, look at the pile, find the Born, and I do find a man, what was it? Yeah, I do find the Born. So I have enough mana, just exactsies. Born, play free rocks. I only found 2 free rocks, so I had to like free rock, cast a Dockside, use the Dockside to tutor, get a clone, make enough mana to be able to show a breach combo on the stack with the board. And it was just pretty slim, pretty close on mana, but I was able to get there. I'm just waiting for Derevi to show me like a Mind Break Chop or something, and he doesn't have anything, so I'm like, cool. And I present the win line to them, and they all say, oh, you got it, and we scoop it up. And pretty fast game. I think it was like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, probably like 10 minutes, honestly. Pretty fast game. Pretty good. A little scary at first, since there was 3 Necropotents on the table. That was pretty funny and really scary, because oh man, if they had like a Dockside, they definitely could have sent it, and it would have been pretty crazy. And I don't know if they would have got there, just because they don't have any instant speed stuff, I believe. I guess they could flip into like take an extra turn spell. But they all just didn't have enough mana to do it, and just decided to Necropotence and get good value. So that was pretty close on my part, and I guess pretty correct in keeping this pretty fast double-edged sword of a Necro, because it kind of just worked out. If I kept any other kind of control hand or like a Tymna based hand, I'm pretty sure I would have lost because it would have been too slow. So I think pretty good keep on my end. But that was round 2. Now we're gonna go into round 3. Round 3, it's me again in first C. I'm super shook, super surprised, pretty good. And then there's a Thrasios Timna. I haven't seen TNT in years, so pretty cool to see that. Najila player and a Tivit. I'm only getting down to 6. Tivit molds down to like 4 or something, maybe 3. Pretty low mulligan. It's a pretty good game early on, very interactive, a good amount of back and forth with people setting up, countering certain things, sort of win attempts showing up and things getting stopped. And yeah, table spends a good amount of time interacting with Agila since they're more turbo, the most turbo deck at the table, trying to present early wins, and we kind of stop them. And Tivit is like doing nothing this game. Like, poor guy has like just been doing absolutely nothing. He finally casts like a Tivit and taps out for it. And he just has nothing going on. TNT has a Ristic out for like a couple turns, and I finally get to my turn, and I have a very complicated long line with Mean Betrayal win with getting stuff out of the graveyards. But like it's pretty long-winded line, and I do have a silence and 2 counter spells. So I know TNT spends a good amount of mana being able to, mana interaction on the Najila player that I think I might be able to get there, but I can't pay for any of my spells for the Ristic Study, or I wouldn't have enough mana to, go for the win once Betrayal resolves, or if this, Silence resolves when I cast it. So I have to let him draw cards as I'm using my interaction. So I show the Silence, TNT shows counter, I show mine, he shows his, I show my final counter spell, and then he finally has nothing, and I've not paid for Ristic Study on these. So I'm just like, okay, everything resolves, Silence back on the stack. Is it good to resolve? And Tivit finally just says, well, I guess I should just, do something as well. Let's look for something. Cracks 2 treasures, cracks one of his clues, draws card, shows a Force of Will off the top. And I'm just so fucking sad. I was just right there, no more interaction, nothing. So I'm like, yeah, it resolves, and I'm looking at my Mean Betrayal, and I'm thinking about sending it, but then I know for sure I'm gonna draw this guy more interaction at least, and he's shown a decent amount of like niche interaction, so I know he's running like way more interaction, and I haven't seen most of the usual interaction from him. So I'm like, okay, there's a good chance he's gonna keep going. I'm just gonna say fuck it, pass. Hopefully he doesn't do anything, and we have other stuff, because and then I can draw some stuff too. So I'm like, whatever. So that's it. All right, I have a Angel's Grace, so I'm not too afraid for the TNT player to have some kind of win, because I believe it's, I don't know if I think it's just the that's a consultation combo. I don't think they're, at least the deck that I've been seeing from doesn't seem to be some kind of like infinite mana Walking Ballista kind of build. So I'm thinking it's just a bunch of value, a bunch of interaction, and then just the Oracle win. So I have Angel's Grace, so I'm thinking, I'll be fine. I got that, so I don't care about the rest of the tables. The only one that's kind of scary is, I guess, Tivit, because he can just take extra turns. But that's about it. And game continues on for, I think, like 2 more turns. No one does anything, and then Agila again tries to present another win. And TNT, was like, hey, I have the interaction. Like, we show the table, and Agila was like, I think the Agila player forgot about it. But then show the interaction, stop him. And before he stops them, he offers the idea of like, hey, can we ID here? I don't want to spend my last bit of interaction. And then it's going to go to Tivit, and then it's going to go to, me, Blue Farm's turn, which the table knows. They're like, yeah, I got Mean Betrayal. So they were like thinking about it. Najila was good to do it because they were hell-bent, because they just went for a win and got stopped already. So they were like down for it. Tivit was thinking about it. And, they were kind of asking me to, because I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to, but I know Tivit showed me their hand previously when we were doing some more interaction trying to stop on Agila, and the classic of like, bro, I don't think you got it, let me see it. And Tivit was like, look at my hand. And in his hand was 3 fairy, kitten, and no way to start the loop, but he had those 2 cards and a Tivit swing and to draw some cards. So the TNT player is asking like, is it good, like whatever, and I'm like, I would like to get on my turn. I'm not too worried about Tivit, kind of, but I think I do tell him that like he does have 3 fairy kitten, but there's no way to start the loop. But if he does draw something, it gets, you know, we're probably, yeah, we're probably dead. So I'm thinking about it. Tivit is also thinking about it too, of like, man, can he get to his turn and, you know, find some way to start the combo and win? And I believe he doesn't think so, because I think he only had like 3 cards in hand. It was, I think, just, you know, 4 cards. It was 3 fairy, kitten, like a land, and some other random card that didn't do anything. So Tivit agrees, like ID, and I agree. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's ID, because you know what? I am afraid of it going to Tivit's turn and him having to cast the stuff, and then, you know, maybe not getting there and feeding the TNT player more. So we just said, yeah, let's just go to ID. And then we were like, I don't know, like 2 minutes left on the clock anyways. So Tivit could have just ran out the clock, I believe, just doing interaction, just, you know, doing stuff. So we decided to just ID there, which kind of sucked. Pretty close, but I was just 1 piece of interaction short. I'm thinking back on it now, maybe I just say, you know, well, I guess no, he would have, never mind. Yeah, that was part of the deal of like, hey, I'm not going to counter unless we ID. So yeah, that's probably why. I mean, I guess I could have maybe been like, nah, but I'm pretty sure he would have let it go. But yeah, you know, it's just whatever. I'll take the ID. It's only round 3. It's not too bad. I should be able to pick up some more wins later on. So I'm like, okay, we'll take the ID. Going into round 4, we have a blue farm player, Nadu in second, Thrasvile, and then me on 4C. And this was a rough game. Me and blue farm mulligan to like 4. I think I was 4 and he was 3. And Nadu and Thrasvile kept like their second 7 or something. They kept a pretty decent hand. They were very confident with their hand. So that was pretty scary already. Nadu and Thrasvile were like really ahead. They're setting up the resources, they're building up a board, and me and the other blue farm player are just going super behind. Nadu is doing Nadu stuff, but overall they're whiffing. They're not finding a lot of stuff, a lot of lands, rocks, a bunch of just like nothing to continue drawing cards or anything. Bit of interaction, but just not much of anything. Didn't see the Skoos, didn't see the Nantuko, or none of the other good stuff that keeps them going or can present like kind of non-deterministic infinite. So we're getting pretty lucky. At one point he throws on a Vexing Bauble and he's locking down Thrasvile Smasher pretty hard because he's doing nothing, and I'm sure most of his stuff requires free mana, or I guess his backup might be free mana for his win cons. We do know Nadu has Fierce in hand from like an earlier reveal. Thrasvile has some kind of Force in his hand. We're not sure which one, but he definitely has something because he can't interact. Blue farm tutors for Deluge at one point, and it goes to his turn, and he, you know, we tell him like, all right, you know, I tell him like, hey, we're gonna cast it, right? Because we're super behind, and he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to kill his Tymna, which is kind of weird because we're like, dude, there's Nadu out with like 4 creatures. Thrasvile has Kinnan and a bunch of other half combos. Well, you have to Deluge. And he's like, no, I don't want, I can't do it here. It's all my resources. I'm tapping out. It's going to kill my Tymna. And I'm like, okay, well, your Tymna doesn't matter because you can't get in with anybody. We all have blockers. But I have a Tymna at this point too. Like, we both can't get in now at this point. And you know, neither of our win cons require creatures, because he was mentioning that like, I'm too scared of it going to my turn and me winning with all the creatures gone. Which is like, we don't care about creatures, bro. We're playing the same deck. And he's like, you know, I don't want to do it. And I'm just trying to tell him like, bro, what are you talking about? This is a no-brainer. Nadu has one of the cards, I don't know if it was like Seeking Blessing or some other card similar like that, where he can target all his creatures and draw 5 cards. Like, what are you doing? And he has, I think he had a Shuko at this point too. So we're like, what are you doing? Like, you have to Deluge here. Like, you're not gonna get in anywhere. Like, what's going on? And he just did not want to do it. He didn't want to kill his Tymna. So I was like, okay, like, that's weird. So he decides to go to combat and he declares an attack against me with Tymna, which is weird because he just stressed how important his Tymna was. And I tell him like, what are you doing? You know, I'll block your Tymna. And he's like, okay, I don't care. Yeah. Which I'm just like, what is going on here? So I'm like, okay, I'll trade Tymnas with you. Cast Deluge now to wipe the field, because now we both don't have Tymnas and they have their entire field with all their commanders, and Nadu's got a bunch of creatures and he still doesn't want to cast Deluge. I'm just like, what is happening here? And it goes over to Naru's turn, and then I cast the there's a Boseiju that's used by the Thrasvile Smasher. I have a silence as well, just to like keep him at bay. It resolves. Both of them resolve. He blow up the Shuko, silence him. Naru doesn't, just plays land, I believe, and he just passes and doesn't do anything. Goes over to the Thrasvile's turn, and he tries to go for a win attempt with some pretty sick lines. I don't remember. It was a lot of like, man, it was like some kind of line with the green land, the woodland card. It was pretty cool. Anyways, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the green and the combos, but he was like talking about it and going through the motions where I was like, wow, that's crazy. And Naru just barely is able to stop him, because we know he only had like 2 counter spells, and or at least that we know of. I don't know. He had some other cards prior to like drawing a bunch of cards previously, but we barely stop him. I Trago, and Blue Farm does the same thing, and it's just like a battle of Naru and Thrasvile of like kind of having interaction for each other back and forth and trying to stop each other, and or just like turns of doing nothing. At one point, Naru gets more stuff out to like just keep going triggers. He did like, man, 3 rotations of drawing stuff of like targeted stuff, draw, targeted stuff, and like he drew like so much. Like, man, in one turn he drew like 20 plus cards and whiffed. I've never seen it before. He drew like absolutely nothing. I think at the very end he drew some important stuff that can keep him going, but he was like tapped out at that point. So he does nothing past this. Thrasvile also just doesn't do anything. We go finally back up to the Blue Farm player's turn, and he finally casts Deluge now, which was like so dumb, like passing it so late. He was, oh my god, so greedy. And at one point of this going back and forth, I had the only 2 cards in my hand was Thassa and Consultation. But I knew that the Naru had at least 3 counter spells that he's revealed and hasn't used them, because no one's done anything and no one's gone for anything, because we know he had 3 counter spells, and at least 1 or 2 maybe from the Thrasvile Smasher. And Blue Farm had like 2 cards in hand, so maybe he revealed one of them was like a Final Fortune, but he didn't have double red, and I don't know what other card he had. It was inconsequential. But yeah, it was just wild. So when nothing happened, I could have gone for it if the dude wasn't greedy and killed the board. I mean, we could have like lost, like, I don't know, oh my god, like 4 times over if Naru like just slightly didn't whip as hard as he did. I was so surprised. I was shook that I'm like, you wouldn't deluge a board with Naru out, 4 or 5 creatures, and like we know he's got the cards in hand to go for it. He has a Vexing Bauble on the field, like he's protected pretty hard. Like, what do you like? What? It was so confusing. I could not understand. It was really wild. But the game goes on finally, and we just go to time. Like Naru, got blown out by the Deluge and just only had interaction in his hand. Same thing with Thrasvile, and we just no one could find any more wins within the time frame of the game, and it just goes to a draw. So that was, yeah, that sucked. If only I had like Islands or something, like, man, about then again, I just mulliganed down low. I had like, man, 3 mana the entire game. Like, it was, oh my god, awful game. One of the worst games of Magic in like experience wise, and like my hands that I kept and the draws that I got. Terrible all around. I hated that round. That round sucked big time. But that's enough for round 4, and then we're going into the final round of the day of round 5. Seat 1 is Thrasvile Smasher, Blue Farm, me, and Narset Enlightened Master, which I believe is just usually Narset extra turns. Me and Narset mulligan low to like 4 or 5. Again, I'm like, oh my god, I'm again mulligan down so low. I'm super tilted. Thrasvile and Blue Farm start out pretty strong. Me and Narset are just kind of sitting there doing nothing. Thrasios tries to go for a win, gets stopped by Blue Farm. We kind of try to set up some like value stuff, and I believe Blue Farm stops us too. And then Blue Farm goes for it. I show my 1 piece of interaction. He's got a counter for it, and he just proceeds to win on his turn 3. He just had the nuts, the whole breach combo in his hand with a bunch of interaction. I guess it was pretty wild. I'm like trying to work with Narset. I'm like, bro, what do you got for revealing hands? Narset has a terrible hand. Like, all the cards you want to flip from Narset is like average CMC in his hand was 5. Like, it was terrible. Thrasvile just had like half of win cons but no interaction, so he had nothing. And yeah, it just pretty fast, fairly uneventful game. Mull down to 4, and then just Blue Farm just had it and wins. So that was it. So there goes the end of day 1. Not feeling too good, a little scary, too many draws, and and that one loss from the rock side was pretty tilting. Trying to send it when we know when he knows the table has the interaction to stop him definitively. And then yeah, those two draws. One of them just one piece of interaction short was so tragic, and then the other one just some greedy players, really weird. And also just I didn't have anything anyways, but yeah. So at this point, I'm 1-2-2, and I need 2 wins to get into the bubble. As I'm going through the bracket and seeing how many draws there are and how close everything is, really surprising actually, pretty wild. Really surprised. I'm looking at and I'm seeing a lot of big names as well are like almost completely knocked out of the tournament already, which was wild to see as well. But yeah, so I'm just like, you know, trying to calm down, trying to recenter myself and just go have a good dinner, hang out with some buds, and just prep myself and get myself ready for day 2, which I do. And then yeah, so we'll just go into day 2. Day 2, round 6, it's gonna be Blue Farm on C1, Dahada C2, Kitten in C3, and then me on C4. I'm looking down to 5, and I find a turn 3 win with no backup, which was a Adnaz. But I had a lot of pain lands and rocks again, so I'm like, ugh, here I go again. But I have an Adnaz win on turn 3, and hopefully things go right. Game goes on. Dahada shows a pretty early win con. The others stop him. I go to my turn, and I then just, I believe yeah, right. We show interaction for Dahada, and then we go to end step of Kinnan, and I decide to show, oh no, something happened. I believe there was there's a fish from Blue Farm that he had out for almost the entirety of the turn, going into like going into turn 3, I believe. And finally it dies. He right. Oh my god, I'm getting so everything's coming back to me. Sorry, it's already been too many long. So I have a turn 3 win with Nas, and then Blue Farm shows a fish, and we try to be as responsible as we can. No one does anything, and we go to like maybe 5 turns of us doing nothing, and Blue Farm tapping out just to keep the fish. They try to show some stuff. We stop them. Dahada tries to show for win. They get stopped. And then we go back to Kitten's turn, and he's been holding back, and he just unloads his hand a bunch of mana rocks, taps out to just set up, and he's got like a scary board. So we're like, okay. I'm like, this is my time. I'm ready to go. Go to his end step. I show the Adnaz. The other 2 players cast a few spells, trying to find something. I show one piece of interaction that I found, you know, to stop it, secure the Adnaz, get a pretty good stuff, go to my turn, and I proceed to show a Breach win, and I'm able to get there. And I'm feeling so relieved because Blue Farm did draw a few cards from the Dahada because they were like kind of set up. They're like, hey man, you know, they're Mardu, they got to set up. They can't just not pass, you know, do stuff. But they were pretty close. They showed a lot of stuff, and we were able to stop them. And yeah, it was a pretty good game of a lot of like, you know, tiptoeing of like showing interaction, being safe, not feeding the fish too much. They drew a good amount of cards, but it was like just a bunch of value stuff and nothing really relevant, surprisingly, or at least like any win cons or not a lot of interaction. So that was pretty good. But yeah, there we go. I secured the first win, and I'm feeling a lot better now. You know, like, oh, I just need 1 win and I'll be able to get into the bubble, which is still like, oh, I still like, I have to get this 7th round win to just get into the freaking bubble, which kind of sucks. So we're going into round 7. First seat, Sisay. Second, Kenrith. Kosla, which I'm gonna have down below hopefully, to show you this random commander, and then me. So I'm at 4th seat. I feel not so confident because I'm behind Sisay, and I know I don't really have a lot of stuff to stop Sisay. They get around a lot of counter spells, so it kind of sucks. I molded to a mid 6. All that it's really going for it is I believe a turn 4 Adnaz, but I just need a second black source. I proceed to go like 3 turns without finding a black source, and by that time I'm like 25 health from early Sisay and creatures, and Kosla coming out pretty early and, you know, bashing me in, and creatures from Kenrith too, casting like pretty fast Kenrith and bashing me into. So it was just like, ugh. There was a lot of interaction back and forth with like creature removal and countering some spells, and the part that was like pretty sucked was me and Kenneth basically had to like babysit the Kosla player most of the early game, which was just so annoying. It was like really difficult. Like, people, you guys know when you get to games where like someone is just like either inexperienced, first time CDH, or they just don't know what they're doing. You know, you just sit there like having to babysit people. It's pretty bad. The dude mulliganed down to 3. He played out his lands and his rocks whenever he got them. He had 1 card in hand, and he showed like an early swords. Kept wanting to sword some like random targets that me and Kenneth were like, stop, what are you doing? You don't need to swords that. Don't need to do that. Like, he's trying to sword some random stuff from me, from the Kenneth, and we're both like, I'm like defending Kenneth, like, no, bro, don't swords that. That doesn't do anything. Kenneth defending me too. I'm like, whoa, don't swords that. That doesn't do anything. We're like, you need to save that swords. We have a Sisay player with creature combos, all right? You need to save it for the Sisay or the Dockside or the Emil. Like, you need to chill out, dude. Like, nothing is happening here. None of this is winning the game. These are not targets you wanted swords. And this guy's just like wanting to swords anything that like was on the field that he could target. Was really wild. And also because he had only 2 cards in hand. So we're like, why are you trying to expend your very limited resources here? You just need to save it to like definitively someone's got to win. Like, it was really wild. So we go a few turns. I finally am able to like, Kenneth has like a Ristic Study that he has, and he's drawing a bunch of cards. He's throwing a bunch of value pieces out. A lot of it doesn't do anything. I'm able to finally get Timna out. I have like a Bowmaster that I get out at some point too, to like kill some creatures from Sisay to stop them. And then we have to feed the Kenneth some cards to be able to kill some like value creatures from Sisay. And we're like, yeah, I'm trying to draw with Timna. And we finally get to a point where he's like, I want to swords with Timna. And Kenneth was like, you could if you want, but like, same boat, there's better targets, it's better to wait. And then I'm like, yeah, bro, I only got like 5 cards in hand. Yeah, I think I had like 5 cards in hand. I'm gonna draw 2. I'm gonna go to 7. It's just 2 cards. Same thing. You don't need a swords to Timna here. You're not losing the game from this Timna drawing me 2 cards. There's a Sisay. There's like all these important things that you still need to hold it for. You need to just chill out. And he's like, no, I got it. You're drawing too many cards. And we're just like, I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? You just saw us like 2 turns in a row just draw Ken with a bunch of cards because we had to deal with Sisay. What are you talking about? And he still was like, no, I needed swords. I need swords it, and swords it, and he's down to 1 card in hand. And I was like, oh my god, whatever. Go to Sisay turn, and they're just like, yeah, you know, recast, or what do they do? Yeah, they recast Sisay and then show a Dockside. And me and Ken just like see that, and we just both look at Costa player like, come on, dude. And we're able to stop the combo, or at least tell the you know, we started early on. I forgot to mention early on, I've been bluffing a opposition agent for the Sisay. I've been leaving 3 mana untapped. I tutored for a card which was, I believe, what did I tutor for? I tutored for interaction. But I was just like bluffing. I kept leaving 3 mana out. I had cards I could play, but I was like sandbagging myself just because I wanted to leave 3 mana up to like keep bluffing this opposition agent. And you know, we tell the Sisay player like, all right, man, you got, you know, a bunch of treasures, whatever, but like there's enough stuff with me drawing force. Like I'm gonna draw, god, I can't speak. I'm gonna have to cast spells forcing the Kenneth player to draw cards, so then I can shoot down your Sisay, and then that's gonna force me to spend all my resources, draw the Kenneth a bunch of cards, and then obviously have to use my card that I tutored for, implying opposition agent, to stop you. And then we're probably gonna throw the game with Kenneth, bro. Just sit back, don't do anything. If anyone else presents wins, then you can do it at instant speed. And I'm able to talk him down, and he does nothing because we didn't have any interaction to stop the Sisay, because the only thing stopping him was the swords. So as soon as he saw the swords gone, he started doing his stuff. So, you know, we were able to tell him like, you know, hey man, don't, you're gonna force me to use all my resources, and you're not gonna, once we stop you, we're not gonna get through Kenrith, and it's probably not gonna get back to your turn. So he manages to not do it. And we go a few turns, and we try to stop him, and then again he gets to a point where he's like, you know what, he's gonna try to go for it. And we try to, again, same thing happens where we show him the interaction, we stop him, and I tell him, hey, don't put any more triggers on the stack, save your mana. Yeah, you know what we have, just don't do it. Just save your mana, man. Like, you're gonna need it for later on. I don't want you tapped out, you have interaction, like you need to chill out. Because he showed me some of his hand, and he really doesn't have much other than just the Sisay and the Dockside. But I'm just like, you need to just chill out, just stop there. And I managed to convince him too, and he's like, okay, fine. At the end of the Costless turn, I then cast an Intuition, because prior to that, the jig was up, because the Kenneth was like, didn't want to interact. just saying like cast your oppo, now you gotta cast your oppo, and then we can do the rest of the stuff. And then I tell them like, okay, I don't have the oppo. And they're just like, Sisei's like, you know, like, oh, you son of a, and I'm just like, oops, he sorry. And so I show the intuition, and the Sisei player has the mind break trap that I know of, and he asked me of like, what am I finding with it? And I tell them, would you rather save your mind break trap, but I will tell you that I'm gonna get some form of interaction that can stop you and the other person, which I believe I wanted to find a Angel's Grace, so I can Angel's Grace Adnos, because I knew that the only interaction that the veteran player had was a red blast. So I just wanted to Angel's Grace and that. So that was gonna be my interaction. So I told them I'm gonna get an interaction for you for the table that can stop both of you two that interacts with you, obviously. And I'm going to put 2 combo pieces in the graveyard because I don't want to draw them. Like I don't want to draw an LED here, and I don't want to draw a brain freeze. So I'm gonna put those cards in the graveyard and find interaction. And the Sisei player is like thinking about it really hard, and he decides I'm gonna hard cast the mind break trap. And I'm just also telling him like, hey man, I'm going to my turn, you're tapping out, and you only have treasures open, and you need those for your Sisei activation. Don't cast your mind break trap. I'm not going for a win here. I'm like, because I don't have like a lot of mana to be able to do my stuff, and I would have to feed the Kenrith. I want to wait till he presents a win and then do my stuff on the stack. So I'm telling him like, hey man, I'm not doing it. I'm not going for a win. Like I want you to save it for him, for the Kenrith player. Please do not tap out. Just, you know, don't. And he's like, I have to do it. I got to do it. I can't have you with like interaction. I'm like, all right, man. So he casts it, draw for my turn, and like during this point, like, man, we're like on like turn like 10 or something, and I've been just breaking, just land, rock, just bunch of useless crap. And I'm like, don't want to cast any of my stuff because I know the Sisei player has a Touch the Spirit Realm in his hand, which can blink the Dockside. And I'm just like, oh my god, no, do not want to do that. We finally get to the end of my turn, and then the player, what's it called, Kenrith, is showing an interaction piece for the Dockside. And Sisei again is trying to show the Touch the Spirit Realm on the Dockside, wanting to blink in and try to go for a win. And I tell him again, I'm able to convince him, dude, don't do it. I have Bowmaster, I have enough spells I can cast still to just kill your Sisei right now. Please do not use it. That is prime interaction you have. That's the best interaction at the table. The dude has a Kutzel because the Kenrith player showed me his hand at some point that he had no interaction, or forcing me to use my interaction. So I know he has a Kutzel and like half combos. He had like 2 tutors, so he had like half combo pieces already. And I'm just like, I'm able to convince him like, hey man, chill out, wait. Like if anything, just wait till he goes for some win con or something. Like you need to save it. Like I know you want to blink Darkside, I know you want to get treasures again, but right now like we'll just kill your Sisei in response, and you're gonna use all your was it 3, 5, 6, 7? I think Sisei was gonna be 7 or 9 mana because it died quite a few times at this point. And that was going to be basically all his treasures. I think his treasures were making 10. Dockside makes 10 treasures. So I'm like, you're using all your stuff to recast this anyways. Like, you need to just not do it. So I'm able to convince him, and he doesn't do it. Dockside gets exiled. And we again go through a few turns of doing nothing. And then we go to finally time. And then Sisei shows another way to go for win. And it's like, okay, I got to go for win. All right, they go what's it called? Invasion to get the Dockside out of the graveyard to then, you know, go for another line. So they do that, get Dockside, go for a line, to go for the line. And I'm just like, okay, bro, I can cast spells to kill his Sisei on the stack. I don't think he has anything. He drew cards, like he has only, I know it is in most of his hands. I don't think he drew the interaction. So I, you know, the kind of player agrees. So I show my board upon win first. Then when he's got the Reb, and I'm like, I need this to draw, and hopefully I'll draw something. He's like, okay, yeah. He lets the board resolve, draw some cards, ping it, and then I show an Adnos. And I know they don't have anything to stop it, and they're just like, they're a little scared of like, oh no, he might get there. And I tell them like, probably not. I'm at like 23 health. Like at this point, I'm like, I don't have any health, and this is like, I'm tapped out. So I would need to find fast rocks to show some kind of win con, and I know you have Reb. So it's probably not going to be good. Oh, and Kenrith had he tutored for an opposition agent at some point, and he cast the opposition agent, try to stop the tutor, but he was just getting from his graveyard anyways. So it resolves, and I begin to flip the worst Nas ever. it was just two, 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 three, 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 just like all the creatures, all the mana rocks, no free mana, no win cons, no interaction, absolutely nothing. And I just proceeded to kill myself because I just found absolutely nothing. And then obviously we were able to stop the Sisei with killing the stuff. And then Sisei can't go for the win, and he's the final turn, and we just end in a draw. Oh. Once as like the Sisei's trying to like finish his turn, he's trying to find some win. He's got nothing, but I'm like continue flipping my cards, and I continue to flip my entire library, and at the very bottom are all the free rocks and all the win cons, like the Brain Freeze, Breach, Dorko combo. They were literally in the bottom like 20% of my deck. I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. So there it goes. I'm out of the bubble. There's no way I'm gonna make it into top 16 unless like 10 people drop or something that are above me, and that's it. That's how the game ends. Ends in a draw. We then have a small conversation at the table of maybe conceding to somebody who has the best breakers. So we go through our breakers, and the Kenneth player has the best breakers that he could probably bubble in at 16 if we concede to him. And he asked if the table wants to do that. Me and the Costa player are like, sure, we'll concede to you. That's not a big deal. But the Sisei refuses to do so. Which, you know, thinking, at least for a big tournament, honestly, in my opinion, actually, you know what? I think in any kind of tournament, I think that's a little BM. Since you are for sure out of this tournament, and I feel like it's pretty spiteful to not concede to the player who definitely has a win, because if we did our math right, he was going to bubble in at 16, and he just refused to, didn't want to. I forgot what reason he gave. It didn't really matter. So, you know, the Kenneth player didn't really push it anymore. He just respected his decision and was like, all right, well, okay, sure. You know, obviously a little heartbroken about it. And, you know, me and Costa were like, we don't care. I mean, we're already out of the tournament. What does it matter? Better to give someone a chance to get into the top 16 from our pod, since we went to a draw, and, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's how the game ended, and that's how the tournament went for me. I ended, I believe, 36. Let me go double check. Where did I end? Here. Yeah, I ended up placing 36 out of the, what was it, 250 or something like that? Out of the 256 players, I ended 36, which is not bad, just right outside 36. And even if I did win, I was checking it afterwards, I would have been bubbled out by 2 players. So I still would have missed the bubble even if I won those 2 games. So that sucked. And if the Kenneth player, I believe he would have, I don't remember. I think he would have bubbled in. We were checking, you know, that day or later on that day. So that's how it went. Overall, my thoughts, I think I played pretty good. There were some spots that maybe I could have done some different kind of politics. I don't know. That one game with the blue farm player with a Nadu having out like a bunch of creatures and for sure the cards in his hand to draw stuff. I have no idea what more I could have said to convince this player to cast the Deluge, because it was like obvious, plain as day. It's surprising there was like, I had to do any politicking. Like, it was just right there in front of you of, hey man, this guy's gonna draw 20 cards. You need a Deluge. Don't leave it here like to chance, because there's no chance. He's drawing like 20 cards, and just by a miracle did he whiff, which kind of was like, see, we're good. We're like, oh my god, bro, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It was super weird. Overall, my experience with what the meta was and the players and the decisions at COWTOWN compared to the West Coast is some of the most fucking greedy players I have ever experienced. I could not believe how greedy players were the entire tournament. It was insane. I couldn't believe it. There are some like greedy players here and there in the West Coast. You know, sometimes people go for greedy plays, whatever, but never, and not to this extent that I've experienced out here. I have no idea if it's just because it's a big tournament and people are just like, fuck it, I gotta send it, I gotta win, or if that is the general meta of that area, which was in Columbus, Ohio. Not too sure, but that was a wild experience of how greedy players were. knowing, even revealing stuff in hand of like, hey, don't do this, it's free to play, it's not gonna plan out for you, and them still going for it, which was wild. It was so weird. I couldn't believe it. It was surprising, honestly. But that, I think, is like my grand takeaway from it all. So going back earlier to the players that didn't make it, which was super surprising. We had like, man, a lot of players. Ashani, I got to play with him in during our LobbyCon. He was a fun guy to play with. It was great. I wanted to play with some other people. Was it Tyler from Play to Win? I could never catch a game. He was always in games. People were always coming up and asking for other people to play. I was trying to find games in with some of these other big names and players, but I just couldn't get in. Every time I was like, I saw them in a pod, and I'll get into one, and they finish and get into another one, and then mine finishes, and I'm like, so I'll just get into another one. So yeah, that was pretty rough. But overall, it was pretty cool traveling to another state, far state, because I have gone to some other adjacent ones for tournaments, but it was pretty cool experience. Like second time flying on a plane, because first time I went to Japan. That was my first time going on a plane, so this is my second time going on a plane, so that was cool experience. Still a little scary, I'm not used to it. Turbulence is like super weird, man. And Spirit Airlines, that's the plane that I used because it was like the cheapest, sucks. Oh my god, I could not believe how terrible the seats were when I was flying to Ohio. They were awful. My back was destroyed. Oh my god. And I forgot to pack some like some Vicks or Icy Hot, and my back was like killing me the entire time. It was terrible. I went to like a massage parlor that was like down the street from the hotel that I was at, and oh my god, they were terrible. Like, oh my god, there was like so many minor stuff that was just like terrible back to back. It was like really bad. The hotel was terrible. It was like super humid. The AC didn't do anything. The pillows were awful. They didn't include breakfast in the room that I had, and like the other shittier hotels across the street did. Well, they're a little bit more expensive, but I'm like, this is a fucking Hilton, and you guys aren't providing breakfast. Like, oh my god, there's so many like minor things I could like rant about this trip. That was just like, biggest thing was the no breakfast included in the room, and the pillows were terrible. I am definitely, if I'm able to go to the open invitational, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make the points to get into the invitational, just because nothing happens out here in the West Coast, and there's not enough events for me to grind out to get points for it. So I'm gonna probably just end up having to go to the open invitational. I'm definitely not staying there. It was like, oh, it's a DoubleTree by Hilton. Terrible, awful, terrible experience. Definitely just stay at an adjacent hotel. It's not good. But yeah, overall, it was pretty cool seeing another state. I wish I had a little bit more money to be able to maybe travel more into town. I feel like if I go to the open invitational, I want to take my car just so I can have the freedom to like drive around. I don't know if it's the area or if I just haven't used Uber in a while, but just like going down like not too far away, it was like $30 for an Uber. And I haven't used Uber in a while since like, man, I don't know. At least here where I'm from, going to like the same distance was like $20 during like peak hours. And it's like lower than that. So I was just like, what the fuck? Why is this $30 to go 5 miles? Like, what is this? It was super whack. So I'm like thinking of just doing the big ass road trip and driving to Ohio from California, just so I could have the luxury of my car and just travel around the city and check it out. Because that's something I could not have done. And even if I could have taken the bus, but like, man, it took me from the airport to the hotel. It took a 2-hour bus ride. Oh, $2 worth overall. But yeah, oh my god, yeah, keep forgetting how long it takes for how long it is for buses. But yeah, anyways, that's how my run went. That was my overall experience with it. Pretty cool. I definitely would do it again. Hopefully, now that I know what kind of like the player mindset is out here in Ohio coming up to the next big event, which would I guess be the Open Invitational, I'll be a little bit more prepared, play accordingly, knowing that these players generally are hyper greedy. So I'll have that, in the back of my mind and be more prepared for that. Just, expecting players to not make responsible decisions. So I'll definitely have that in mind moving forward. And now experiencing that, having better, I guess, politics in mind to help navigate those situations. But But yeah, and then I mean, I guess I could talk about it. I really wasn't there, but like the wounded satellite situation with him getting banned. It was during LobbyCon. I was in the middle of a pod with some people, and I know something was going on behind me. It was happening like right down the table, on the same table that I was at, and like I don't know what was happening. There's a big commotion. People were there. It was like people were leaving the table, coming back. I was like secondhand watching. I'm like, what's happening there? And I didn't really know. Wounded going over, talking with a bunch of judges, and was like, oh, what the heck? And just not paying too much attention because I'm in the middle of my game. And then afterwards, I come home, and then the whole thing comes out that he's banned. I was like, whoa! Did not know all of that was happening right down the table from me. It was crazy. Yeah, pretty wild. I don't have much input other than that of what happened, and video is already long enough for me to explain my opinions of the banning and the whole situation. But yeah, maybe I'll do another video of it. I don't know. I don't think people cares about what I have to say about it really, so I don't really think it'll be worth it. But yeah, pretty wild. I think overall I don't know, like the whole situation at least that came out, I don't know if the ban was heavy-handed or not. Pretty decent compromise of him being banned for the rest of the season. Or I guess, I mean, yeah, because it's been known that Wounded is like a bit toxic. So it's not like something that was out of the blue. But you know, so I don't know. Definitely not my decision to make, and honestly, I haven't really thought too much about it if it was a correct decision to make, but it was a decision that was made, and yeah, hopefully he learns from it. I always wanted to get into a game with Wounded Satellite. I haven't been able to because I know and heard just how, like, you know, I don't want to say toxic, but like how his strong personality is, and I think mine is as well. And I just wanted to like get into a battle of wits with this guy in a cEDH game to really see how he is and really, you know, flex my yap muscles as well to one of the master yappers in the format. So unfortunately won't be able to experience that for the rest of this season. Maybe in a chaos tournament, but at this point I'm not doing any more chaos events because they just suck, and then I'd never have good experience with them. So hopefully in some other events, maybe next year, I'll be able to finally get into a game with them and, you know, have a battle of yap. That would be a fantastic experience, and probably not going to be a good experience for me. So I'm excited to go through that and see how it goes. But that's it for today. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully I can get another video out soon, actually, because I do want to go over and talk about some of the spicy cars coming out in Bloomborough. A lot of weird and cool stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to do a video of that as well, and maybe have some other guest appearances too to kind of go over some cards as well. Some buds of mine. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. Please like the video, subscribe if you want to see more. It would help me out. Comment below. You know, help out with the algorithm gods and pleasing them. Would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Good night.